Welcome to the Bowel Chronicles, where we dive deep into the world of bowel health. I'm your host, Nikki Kilpatrick, and on this podcast we have raw and candid conversations with individuals facing various bowel conditions and illnesses. Through personal stories and shared experiences, we illuminate resilience and courage in the face of adversity. Be reminded that each story is personal and unique. These conversations are not to be taken as medical advice or to replace guidance from a doctor or healthcare provider. Our aim is to inspire and empower through these amazing stories, amplifying voices often unheard. So join us as we embark on this journey together. Sit back, listen, and be inspired. Enjoy the episode. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Bowel Chronicles. I'm your host, Nikki Kilpatrick, and today we are joined by the lovely Dorry, all the way from Idaho, USA. Dorry, it's so good to have you here sharing your story with us today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for asking me, Nikki.
So, Dorry, you and I connected, quite a while back on social media, which has been amazing. It's blossomed into a beautiful friendship, daily contact, and we've just been encouraging each other on our journeys, which has been fabulous. But you had surgery in around the same time as myself, and I think that's how we kind of connected. And Dorry, you have an ileostomy. You have a permanent ileostomy stoma. So for our viewers, audience, and listeners today, that is the part of the small bowel that's brought outside of the body, and a little bag then is attached to it, and that is kind of how our bowels move. So Dorry, yours is permanent, but you have a story of IBD, inflammatory bowel disease. So you had diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. So maybe if we could start and go back to, like, how did you even discover that you had inflammatory bowel disease, the type of bowel disease it was, and what life was like for you?
Right. Yeah. I do want to say really quickly, though, that it was a month after my surgery. You came on a similar Facebook page and
Okay.
you'd posted because you just had surgery yourself, maybe a week or so. And you were in the most gorgeous gold, glittery, tight dress dancing just a few weeks after your surgery. And I'm like, who is this girl? I need to get to know her. Because I was like laying there recovering, going, wow, I wish I could be doing that right now. I was like, no
That's right.
way.
It was
It
just
was
3 weeks after surgery, and it was my daughter's 21st birthday. So,
okay. Yeah. Well, I thought you were stunning, and I'm like, oh, I need whatever she's got. I need a little bit of that because that's amazing.
uh,
But yeah, my story started back in 2000, the year 2000.
mhm.
I was working at a department store here in Boise called Macy's, and I was on my feet all day long. And it was a very stressful job. I was in management. I was there all the time, 8 to 10 hours a day, standing on concrete. Hours were terrible. It was fun though, it was cosmetics. I was like doing that thing and the girl thing and had a great time with that. But I started having a lot of diarrhea and running to the ladies' room halfway through my shift, like every couple of hours, and thinking, this is weird. This can't be right. And losing weight. And that part was good, but running to the bathroom, not so much. And went to my GP. He sent me to a gastroenterologist, said, oh, it's probably just IBS. We'll just, do a scope and check. So had the scope, and he said, looks bad. Your whole colon is inflamed. You've got ulcerative colitis. You have looking like precancerous polyps, ulcers, along the colon wall that they couldn't remove. And, you need to get on the medications and get sorted out. And so I said, great, let's do this. Got on the medications and nothing worked. Nothing worked. It just kept getting worse and worse. And someone at my church said that they had had a dream about me the night before. They ran into me on a Sunday and said, I feel like I'm supposed to give you this book. I'm like, oh, they had no idea what my health history was or what I'd been going through. And it was this guy called Jordan Rubin. And he wrote a book called Patient Heal Thyself. And he had Crohn's colitis. It's really bad. And I thought, wow, well, and a few years later, he was fine because he started taking a whole bunch of probiotics and eating a certain way without any grains and all this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So I thought, well, maybe I'll do that because he got healed from it, right?
Okay.
So I took this book down to the store And I was buying all the stuff to do, like, carrot juicing and all these things I have to do, and all these probiotics and whatnot. And I ran into an old friend at this store who was actually a nutritionist. And she told me about a naturopath who has been helping people all around the world with IBD. And she was here locally, and you should go see her. She says, but you can't get in for 6 months, apparently, because all these people are trying to get to her. She said, but I'll give her your name and your number and, see how it goes. I'm like, great. Well, the next day, I got a phone call from this doctor.
Wow.
She had a cancellation, and this mutual friend had given her my name and number. I got right in, and she started treating me and found all the like underlying causes of what was going on with my colon. And a year and a half later, I was in full remission. So that was great. And so that was like 2001, 2002, something like that.
Okay.
And I went from all that time until 2018, 2019, no problems.
2001, 2002 to 2018.
Yes.
You went all that time. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
That's
Yeah. I'd put back on all the weight I'd lost. I wasn't having to run to the loo. I was just fine. Like, I was good. Like, my colon got healed up enough from what she was giving me with all her special supplements and tinctures and diet. I mean, I was seeing her once a week for a long time. It was a very expensive way to go because insurance didn't cover it. But still, I got healed from it. Well, I say I got healed. I went into remission. I thought I was healed. And then 2018, my husband and I went through some horrendous stress in our business. And it came out of the blue. And I wasn't ready to cope with it. I don't know. Anyway, it was hard. It was really hard.
okay.
And it was about 3 or 4 months later, I started getting the symptoms back again. And I thought, oh no, this can't be happening. So I went back to my naturopath, went back to the natural stuff that I was doing. Nothing worked. Nothing worked. It just got worse and worse and worse, to the point that from like 2019 to 2023, I had gone from about 120 to 125 pounds down to 90 pounds. And I don't know what that is in kilograms or stones, but it's like deathly skinny, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I lost like 30 some pounds, and nothing was working. Absolutely nothing was working. And I went back to my gastroenterologist, had a colonoscopy, he checked me again. Oh yeah, you're in a full flare. We want to do this, this, and this. And so I went along with everything that they were telling me to do. And it just got worse. Like, nothing was helping this time. Nothing worked. And I suffered for about 4 or 5 years with that. And then it was the end of 2023. We went across to England to see my son and daughter-in-law, and brand new baby grandson. We just had to go because that little guy just couldn't stand it, had to be there with them. And we were there a good 10 days. It was over Thanksgiving, so it was end of November. The day before we left, I woke up with extreme abdominal pain. We'd been out for a meal the night before with my son, our daughter-in-law, and we'd walked up this hill afterwards. There was no place to park. They live in Leeds. And so we were clear up on the hill where we were parked. And I thought that maybe I'd pulled a muscle because we had to walk so far, coming home to get to the car. But the pain just didn't leave. It just got worse all day long. And my kids wanted me to go to the A&E in Leeds. And because I was just laying on the couch, doubled over with we have heating pads. I had a hot water bottle on my tummy the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
But we were leaving the next day, and I'm like, no, I'll be okay. Just, I'll be fine. I just laid on their couch the whole day. And they were so worried about me. Well, the next day we get on a plane, come back to Idaho. And it was a Friday. And I was just sicker than a dog. I'd been sick the whole way home on the plane. I had quite a few accidents on the way home, if you can imagine, on an airplane and airports. And I took a separate case to have all, extra clothes and baby wipes and all that, which thank goodness I had. And the day after we got home, I said to Ian, my husband, I'm like, take me to the hospital. I don't care. I'm not good. I'm throwing up, uncontrollable diarrhea, all of it. It was just awful, 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 awful. Could hardly walk. So he gets me to the hospital, and they do all the tests, and they admit me. And the surgeon came in and said, "We've seen your CT scans, and you've got a great big mass on your colon, and it's 100% cancer. And we're going to hook you up with the cancer surgeon and the oncology team and all the rest of it." Just was like, I thought I just had inflammation, or I thought I just had a pulled muscle. I had no idea that this was the situation. And I think I let out a few swear words as I was sitting there like, this can't be happening. And the next morning, they did a colonoscopy for me in the hospital. And the part of my colon that goes, what's that? Is that the ascending? They couldn't get the camera down. It went up and across, but they couldn't go down because it was so inflamed.
Yeah.
And then they came back and said that I had tested positive for C. diff, which is a horrendous colon infection. A lot of people think it's bacterial or viral, but it's actually fungal. And I have no idea. I probably had it somehow before we even went to England and came home. And that's what made my colon really, really inflamed, was the C. diff.
Right.
So put me on a ton of antibiotics. I was in the hospital for 3 or 4 days just to get that infection under control. So then they could do another colonoscopy to see if they could go down and see what was actually going on. But when I came home from the hospital, their colorectal surgeon called me and said, "We've looked at your scans. I'm working as a team with the gastroenterologist there at the hospital and a few other physicians. And we've detected like precancerous polyps in the colon that we could scope. And we don't know what's down that other side, but we know it's probably not going to be any better than what we've seen." And, she says, you're 63. You should just have this thing out. Probably no medications are going to help it go back to where it was. And basically, they all said, all 3 of them were male doctors. They all said, if you were my wife, you'd be having that surgery right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, after hearing all that, and my husband and I talking about it, praying about it, we both just felt like this is what we needed to do. And one of my best friends had talked to me about having this surgery for a number of years while I was suffering and struggling, and she'd come and see me and stay with me. And she's like, "Have you ever thought about having your colon removed?" And I'd be like, "No." Like, that's the last thing I wanted to have done. It's like, I've been in remission for 18 years. I know it's like, I don't want to lose part of I had no idea what it was about, but even thought of that surgery scared literally the crap out of me. It was like, I don't want that. I don't want to wear an ostomy bag. And the more I talked to my surgeon, the more it felt like, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Yeah. So that's that. That's where, so then they scheduled me for surgery, January 5th, 2024. Yep. And had it done.
So they removed the mass, removed the large bowel, and left you
Yep.
then with your permanent end ileostomy.
Right. And the mass was just the inflammation. But when that physician came in the ER and said, "Oh, you've got full-on cancer and you're going to have surgery and you're going to have to be on the oncology team and we'll set up a chemo schedule for," I mean, they should never have said that to me, because both my husband and I laid wide awake all night that night. I mean, literally, I laid there in my hospital bed watching the clock go around 2, 3, 4. I mean, I was so like freaked out by that. Your adrenals just go nuts when you get given a diagnosis like that. So that was naughty on their part.
Massive inflammation, not cancerous, but obviously, yes, precancerous polyps in there, polyps with the potential to turn cancerous.
Right.
Obviously you're gonna want those removed. Yeah. So it was the best thing for you actually having this ostomy surgery, even
Absolutely.
though it terrified you for so long, but you just knew it was right for you. On the other side of surgery, Dorry, ulcerative colitis, gone.
Yep.
No more
Gone.
inflammation.
Nope. Nope.
No more running to the bathroom.
Nope. And even when, came here to sit down to do this, my husband said, "Well, if you need to go to the bathroom, you don't have to go anywhere. You can just sit there during the interview." And I'm like, "You're right. There's no more fear of that. It's like, it takes care of so many things. You're in control. You take charge of it. It's not in control of you."
Sure.
Even to the point now where I'm really excited about taking the trip, making another trip back across the seas to come back to the UK to see my kids and know that that flight's going to be great.
Yes,
Nothing like the last international flight that I took.
definitely
That
not.
no, yeah,
Wow. So
yeah,
would you say surgery has been a good thing for you?
100%. And even my friend, and she's just like, I know. I kept telling you, you should do this. You should. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't know what a fright that was
Yeah.
for me. So yeah, I mean, it took me a good 6 to 8 weeks to start feeling okay. And but I've been doing great. I've got some other health issues that I'm working through, but for the most part, I'd say 90% I'm like energetic, get out of bed, get up, get going all day long,
Mhm.
energy like I've never had before. So, 100% worth it. And the greatest thing about it all is like, there's no more fear. I have no more fear about what's growing in my colon and what could happen and could it spread and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All that. Because when you have inflammatory bowel disease, when you have IBD, you're in a high risk for colon cancer.
Mhm.
And they tell you that. And you're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But when it's not there to worry about, it's actually really, really nice.
Freeing, very
Yeah.
freeing.
And I really do have so much peace about my health for
Mhm.
the first time in 25 years. It's amazing.
And
Yeah.
although like being in remission for those 18 years, which is absolutely fabulous, if there are remedies out there that you can access that help, like it can come back, like you said. Was there there was no colonoscopies or anything during that 18 years because you were feeling fine? Was there any need to go near a gastro? Was there any of that? Or did you just carry on with life?
Yeah. Well, before I went into remission, the very last colonoscopy I had 5 in 1 year. And the Go Lightly prep. I don't know what you guys have over there to drink, but it's a gallon full of the worst stuff you've ever tasted. And it's just disgusting.
Mhm.
And I remember on my 5th colonoscopy prep, sitting on the toilet the whole night long, just bleeding and awful and being sick and crying out to God, let this be the last colonoscopy I ever have to have. Please, oh please, that kind of thing, because it was so bad. And so after that, and I had been seeing my naturopath before that very last one, and things had really changed. And so the scope from that said, you were approaching UC, not urine full flare. You were approaching, which means the tissue had healed quite a bit. So, and I was feeling better too, So for the next, 17, 18 years, I didn't worry about it because I thought, I'm good. I'm not having any symptoms. I'm fine
Yeah.
until I wasn't.
So,
Yeah.
Dory, what would you say for anyone listening today, um, are kind of the main signs and symptoms for inflammatory bowel disease for ulcerative colitis to watch out for?
Well, for me, it was just uh, the diarrhea.
Mhm.
I didn't really have a lot of blood. A lot of people get a lot of bleeding,
Mhm.
I have a good friend who had it for about 5 years, and she would say after she went to the bathroom, it looked like a crime scene,
Mhm.
that much bleeding. Um, I didn't have that cramping, there's that. Uh, Weight loss. Um, yeah, and that's different than Crohn's. So, um, yeah, UC is just an animal in its own.
Yeah. Was there any foods? I know you mentioned stress can trigger it, but were there any foods that you feel that would have triggered it to flare up, or was there anything that stood out?
Yeah, I don't know. When I was originally healing in the natural way, this doctor had me come off of gluten and dairy and grains and sugar. So it left a pretty boring diet, but I worked with it pretty well. I can't say for 18 years I was perfect with it.
Mhm.
I'd say I'm gluten free, but then I'd go out and have a pizza with my husband or something,
Yeah.
and then I'd be fine again because I wasn't unwell. But
Okay.
so I hadn't really had much to eat in the 5 years before surgery. I'd pretty much was starving to death. Really, I was, because I couldn't keep weight on if I tried. And I was just dropping weight all the time. And it was quite scary. And so the day after surgery, when my surgeon came in and said, full diet, whatever you want, I was like, oh. And I've had a lot of friends and family who brought me meals and stuff for those first few weeks after coming out of hospital. And I ate everything and anything. And I said to my husband, I go, so much food, so little time. But let me tell you, I've paid for it since those 30 pounds came on really fast.
Yeah, I
And
know it happens, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah. Like you, it's like, okay, it's time to cut out
Yeah,
the breads and the carbs and the starches and the sugars and, start eating healthily again. So that's what I'm working on right now.
yeah. So food hasn't been a problem for you, and obviously it's been nice to gain weight. Yes, I know as females there's a certain way we like to look and feel in our skin, but
Yep.
actually gain weight and be healthy post-surgery is amazing. To be able to eat all of those things that you were lacking in for so long is just delicious. It's so good.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. And they give us guidelines, right, on what fruits and vegetables not to have. And it makes it hard. It makes it awkward, like corn and celery and mushrooms and pineapple and coconut. And you're like, what the heck? What's left? Like they take all the good stuff away.
I'm a rule breaker. I don't like mushrooms, but I tend to eat most other things. But what works for me doesn't work for everybody.
Right.
We're
Exactly.
all different. We're all different. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And I've experimented too. And so far, so good. But
Yeah.
you still feel like you need to be careful a little bit, don't you? Just like
Absolutely.
you don't want blockages.
No, no,
You
nobody
want to
wants
take
to
a
end
chance.
back in the hospital having an
And
NG.
you had an NG tube too, didn't you? And
Yeah.
so that's what they give you a lot with blockages. And my mom had one too when she was in the hospital before she passed. And it was so
No,
traumatic.
yeah, it is it's traumatizing having an NG tube.
Yeah.
It's very sufficient. It's excellent at what it does.
Right.
But if you can prevent having an obstruction and being back in hospital, then definitely it's worth doing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So how are you managing? You're talking there about planning a trip, and it will be successful flying, but in everyday life, managing life at 63 with a stoma, no issues. You handle it. What about dressing, feeling okay in your skin? How do you navigate that?
Yeah. Well, the first few months, I was having quite a few leaks, and I know that's pretty common for a lot of new ostomates, but I found out because I had lost so much weight that my stoma actually shrunk.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to get a convex base plate, wafer, flange, barrier, whatever you call it. It was like about 5 different names for the same thing. And then once I got that and I found the right supplies, that's taken care of that. And I haven't really had sore skin or any problems. Um, I'm not on a set schedule where it's like very regimented or legal, like every second or third day. It's like when it starts itching, I'm like, oh, time to change, and do that. Yeah, I probably had 30 to 40 pairs of really nice trousers, jeans, pants that cannot get my big toe into anymore. And so, that's not been fun going up 2 pant dress sizes. But it's a small price to pay for being healthy. And um,
But sometimes
I,
it's
I, I
about
do,
being comfortable too,
yeah,
giving that
absolutely.
added bit of extra room for your stoma bag, depending on what way you wear your trousers. Yeah.
Right. And when I first had surgery, a good friend of mine actually who has an ostomy, and I had never really talked to her about it until I had surgery on my own. Then she was one of the first people to call. She sent me a whole bunch of pairs of Ostomy Secrets. Have you heard of that brand? They probably have it in the UK. It's probably something different, but they have like little pouches inside your undies to put the
Yeah.
bag down into,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
which was really nice for the first few weeks. But then I realized that it didn't fit me quite well, so I had to I just find that like you find the undies that work for you. You find, and I really like leggings, and I really like workout wear,
Yeah.
and yeah. So you find clothes that fit and feel good and make you feel secure and comfy, and yeah,
Yeah.
a
I'm
little different than
100%
before,
in
but that's
agreement.
what I do. What's
Yeah.
that, sir?
I'm in agreement. I was actually, because my surgery was planned, even though it was 6 days, my stoma was sighted then just a couple of days before my surgery. And I can remember going in and the stoma nurse asking me, well, what type of underwear do you wear? And I said, see these ones I'm wearing? I wear these every day. I have like 20 pairs, but I wear these exact ones every day. And she's like, okay, well, if we do this, then your stoma bag will sit over them. But afterwards you might want to think about high waisted or whatever to put it over. It's like, right, okay. So I have my moments where I just wear my regulars. And then if I'm working out, obviously I wear a support band. Sometimes I will put high waisted on to give me that extra support and comfort. And again, I think
Yep.
it depends on the outfit as well, what you're wearing. But there are so many products out there that are really, really helpful,
Yeah.
that work. And yeah, the ostomy briefs with that extra wee pouch from side to side in it that just rests your stoma bag works. Personally, I don't wear them, but they're very good. I've tried them and they are
Hmm.
good. Yeah. So, Dorry, it has been absolutely fabulous hearing your incredible story. I'm so delighted for you that life is completely different now for you. No pain, no fear, and that you are generally doing well post surgery. If there was a little golden nugget that you could leave with our audience today, someone who is listening to this that maybe has ulcerative colitis, has maybe been on a similar journey to yourself, and the idea of surgery is daunting, like you said yourself. What we thought would you leave with our audience and viewers with today?
Yeah. Well, I remember like you going in to see the stoma nurses before surgery, where she, X marks the spot. And I did the whole thing too, of, wearing my knickers and bending over and doing
Yeah.
all that. And she's like, "Yep, that's perfect placement." And she said to me, "Do you realize that your large intestine is the one organ that you actually don't need?" And I'm like, "You're kidding." Because you think you do, right? You think it's so vital, one of the largest organs in your body. And she explained to me why, and the purpose of what it does. And if you don't have it, then, and I would just say, if this is something that's going to give you a better life and a quality of life, do not be afraid
Mhm.
of it. Don't be fearful of it like I was, because it is not a life killer. It's a life changer for the good. It really is a game changer. Like,
Mhm.
I really do have my life back, and there's no fear. It's just good, and if you're in good hands, find a good surgeon, find the right place,
Mhm.
and just trust the process, because you won't regret it,
Mhm.
really. Yeah, I certainly don't.
I love that. Trust the process. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, and another thing that I felt like I kind of had to come to terms with mentally, because for the first few weeks after surgery, I don't know how you were, Nikki, but I would just have random moments of sobbing, and I didn't even know why,
Mhm.
but it would just hit me, like, I'd look down, and I'm like, oh, she's with me for life. This is
Mhm.
my new norm, and to wrap your mind around it, and emotionally, mentally,
Yeah.
and I literally heard in my head one day while I was having a little wee pity party,
Mhm.
"This does not define you."
That's right.
And I'm like, "That's right. That's right. This doesn't define, this is,
Mhm.
I'm now not an ostomate. I am still, every bit me, full of energy, full of life. And I just have this little thing I take care of, and it's great.
Yeah.
So it doesn't define me.
It doesn't.
Doesn't.
Absolutely, absolutely not. And I can totally relate to that. There are still moments now where I'll look down and I'll go, oh, it's you and me forever. And if that, brings a downer for a split second, I'm quickly reminded of what life was like beforehand, and you just jump back out of it again. It's like, no, I've gotten my life back. You have brought me and helped me get my life back. So yeah, it
Yeah.
does not define you in any way. No.
And I love how you celebrated as Winnie the Pooh. I love that. And every time I was at a store or a shop and I saw something Winnie the Pooh, I'm like, I want to get that for Nikki. I want her to have this, a little mug, your bathrobe, all the fun things you did. Yeah.
Yes, that's my daughter thinking she's funny. Yeah, I do have a few little Winnie the Pooh things around, and when we're out and she sees stuff, it is, oh, mom, look, that's cute. I'm like, there's a line that has to be drawn here.
You get to that point, don't you? I know my surgeon said, I did the perfect stoma for you. It's just a perfect little rosebud. And so I'm like, rosebud. Oh, Rosie. Okay. But
So
to talk about it now, like it's kind of cringe. So I'm like, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
nah.
Yeah. It's cute. Well,
Yeah.
Dorry, it has been fabulous talking to you today. Thank you so much for joining us. For anyone that's listening today, I will share Dorry's handle in the show notes below. Go give her a like, give her a follow. And yeah, it's just been so good to hear your full entire story, my friend. So thank you all the way from Idaho, USA. Yeah,
Yeah.
very
Thanks.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, that is us done for today, guys. So do come back, join us next week for another episode. Stay tuned, and we will catch you all very soon.